welcome to the Law of Positivism podcast. I'm your host, Shireen, and I'm the creator of Law of Positivism. I'm here to help you on your spiritual and healing journey. I am a certified yoga and meditation teacher, a student of Chinese medicine, a doula, a Reiki practitioner, and a passionate, highly sensitive person. I want to use my knowledge to channel information and messages for you to grow on all levels. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. I'm so grateful that you're here, and I hope you're taking the time right now to just be still and quiet and go within, especially now that things are the way they are, and we are all invited to go deeper within, listening even more deeply into our own soul and our own truths. So just grounding down and feeling safe and protected by the earth, and feel the connection with all beings right now. And this week I'm sharing a beautiful conversation with Shems Heartwell. He's a relationship guide and a men's work facilitator, and he specializes in personal, relational, and collective empowerment. His work goes to the core of what is needed for embodied transformation by working with and integrating the physical, mental, emotional, sexual, and spiritual as the tapestry for our evolution. And he's been mentored by teachers from all over, and he's really passionate about coaching, relationships, leadership, healing, and transformation. And he has 20 years of experience in this. So the work he's doing is truly beautiful. And on the episode 2 weeks ago, I had his beautiful wife, Achintya Devi, as my guest, who works in Goddess Rising with Divine Feminine and Sisterhood. And Shems is now facilitating a men's passage course, which is just awakening the strength and empowering this aspect within all the men and brothers that are out there to balance the work that women are doing also. And together Achintya and Shems has this beautiful empowered loving course for couples. So he shares about that as well. So we talk about empowering and healing the masculine. We speak about healing and transforming the past experiences that we might have. We talk about his men's passage course, relationships, connections, and empowered loving. And I really hope that you enjoy this episode. And if you have any feedback or any questions, you can reach out to me or Shems. And I do appreciate all of you who are subscribing to my YouTube channel and rating and reviewing the podcast. It really means a lot to me. And I just hope that you can relax now, taking deep breaths and just enjoying this conversation. Hi, Shems.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Wonderful to meet you here.
I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm really excited to talk to you. It's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I've been, just since Achintya turned me on to you, I've been looking at your posts and looking and just really appreciating what you're up to and what you're sharing, and the almost like the energetics through the message you're sharing are quite beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you so much. And I always ask the question, how do you stay mindful and present?
That's a good one. I by dropping deeper into my body and my breath, like to for me, the more I'm down in my gut or feeling my heartbeat or feeling my feet upon the ground, the more my mind is calm and the more I feel clear and present and not busy minded but present minded.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important. And yeah, I'm really excited for you to share a little bit more about yourself. We had your beautiful wife here on the show. I think it was 2 weeks ago, Achintya from Goddess Rising. And yeah, it's going to be fun to hear your story and to merge both of you together. It's like yin and yang, so it's going to be very interesting. So maybe you can start by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Yeah. Well, as my wife does too, we live in Maui, and I got here in kind of an interesting way because I lost everything in a wildfire in California, in Southern California, and it catalyzed a lot of change in my life. And one of the blessings of those changes and letting go of a lot, including my first marriage in a really loving way, was that it it brought me deeper into service and into my work and what I do now. I was a Chinese doctor and doing acupuncture full time and healing work and medical qigong, and I don't do much of that anymore. It's evolved more into full time doing couples work and relational work with couples all over the world through Zoom and Skype and leading courses. And then more recently, in the last few years, a lot of men's work, leading this online course called the Men's Passage. And my mission in that is helping men to become more embodied and more responsive rather than reactive, and to have the tools to be able to meet ourselves inside more fully, but also show up in our relationships, in our work, in our lives, more in integrity, and not just like integrity of like I'm doing the right thing because I believe in it, but because I'm at home in myself. I'm in integrity with my heart and my mind and my body. And from that place, I'm living more in relationship to everything and everyone that feels good and feels mutually supportive. And so that's my biggest passion right now in my work, is this growing movement of creating circles of men that are working together and supporting one another and building new bridges and new networks that are just of another, living from another possibility that feels more heart resonant.
That's so interesting.
And it comes out of a long story on my own side of, coming from divorced parents, and my father and mother are both from Germany. And my father lost his parents at the age of 1 due to them being Jewish, and due to a lot of things we don't really know. But my father was, said that his parents were killed in the war, but I think there's a lot deeper in that. But it led to trauma that he, didn't know how to raise me or my brother. And so it was really difficult to be with him. And we could all imagine the hardships of that, but the gifts of that is that I became really sensitive and be able to read him and feel him. And when I would transition between my mother and father in 2 different living places, it was simultaneously difficult and challenging, but also it turned on a lot of keenness and sensitivity and ability to adapt in me of living in different places. And it led to me at first struggling and suffering and feeling not good enough and having all kinds of learning disabilities in school and socially in life, to those ultimately turning into the gifts of my life, which many people probably can relate with here, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's actually a lot of people that are doing so much amazing work in the world and helping others have this background. And I think when children have to learn to adapt to a certain environment, the sensitivity heightens. Also, the understanding and compassion comes very early on to just it's like supporting grown-ups so early. It really advances you. And also, we're all here and have chosen this type of path that we're on, and it's always for our highest, greatest good. So we need to see the blessings in it, even if it's hard when we're experiencing it.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I that's something I've worked with too. Is little by little unwinding my need to father my father. Because, some of us who've come in through our parents, maybe some of us come in, we've been blessed. I have been blessed to grow up in our Western culture and have more than he probably had through his life and a lot of the good things. And so he's had less opportunity to kind of do some of his self-resourcing work or healing work. And so there's a place in me that kind of wants to do it for him or walk him through that. I realize I've had to learn how to turn that off too, that sensitivity you speak of. Or that feeling of needing to take care of, or not that I don't do that, but learning to do it less or do it more when it's an opportune moment rather than feeling obligated.
So interesting, because I've had so many beautiful women here on the podcast who are truly working with the divine feminine and the goddess, and I've also had we have been talking a little bit about divine masculine, of course, and the healing of the divine masculine, but maybe you want to talk about that, because I can see that your work is really also really parallel to Achintya's work, but in a different way, like everything that you've mentioned. And maybe you can talk about like that aspect of your work.
Absolutely. And I'm a little cautious to use the word like divine masculine because it feels like it's this higher light field, spiritually evolved, which is wonderful, and I'm all on board for that. However, I do feel like that term turns off some of the collective of men that could use support because they don't necessarily resonate with that part. So I do my best to make the work I do with men very grounded in like practical embodied being as men, and being able to include all the archetypes of the warrior and the magician and the lover and the king, and the ones that have been really well paved in our world that most of us can resonate with men. However, I'm a true deep believer that through the more we get embodied and the more we as men come home to our hearts and our deeper wisdom of our God and learn to show up for ourselves and each other, in that the divine qualities really come to light or come to life, or they turn on in us. And so I like to think of them more as the byproduct of our embodied work, and rather than the goal. And if that makes sense, because I do believe there's a lot of spiritual bypassing in the world, which is a sense of like being on path and doing a lot of work with spiritual teachers, which I've had quite a few gurus and deep mentors in my own spiritual path. And sometimes I think we end up with this polarity of spiritually advanced or like deeply dense. And I really think they have to come together, that whether it's men's work or women's work, we've got to get into the thick of like where the energetic blocks are in our bodies, where the undigested emotional pain is that we've been carrying from our ancestors. And I like to get practical with that, of like, how do I cook through some of the heavy things that I carry, but not be taken by it and not get caught in the trauma vortex of revisiting wounding and childhood things, but literally burning through them so our hearts are brighter, so our presence is more clear, so our availability to deeply love and experience and accept others comes online all the way.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And when it comes to so you have this men's passage course, and it's really something that I think is needed, because we have, I mean, women have been, it's like we have been vulnerable together and shared together for so, like, if you look back in history and the red tents and all of this, We have had the opportunity to do that, and we've, even when the time came and we couldn't do that anymore, the traditions has still been kept, and there's a very strong longing for this sisterhood and a communion with together, and now it's to balance that. We need to have, I think there's so many conscious men out there that are also longing to connect with each other. And it's like women, it's so easy in a way, like you can meet a sister outside somewhere and you start talking, and you can connect deeply with no like walls or anything. And I think that's one of the things that need healing, is this strong wall or facade that has been created. And I mean, we all have, I've seen myself in past lives as a man, but I felt like myself, like I was still soft and gentle within myself. It didn't make a difference which body I had. But I would like you to talk more about this program and what your intentions and visions are for it.
Yeah, and thanks for highlighting that piece, because I've I've noticed that in myself too. As a younger man coming into my life, I was actually a little bit jealous of the way that how easily women can connect and express love. And I'd be out in a group of men, whether it's watching a football game or surfing or hanging out somewhere, and there was always this, like, this pokey energy and intensity and criticalness, and sometimes just playfulness, but it wasn't easy to connect, and I would long for more depth with men. And so maybe that's partially how this happened for me to unfold this way. And I would have so many women over the years ask me, would you work with my man? Because I feel like he could just use just talking to a man like you just to know that it's even possible to do this. And my work grew out of that. And my main intention for the men's passage, it came out of the relationship work I do, working with lots of couples, and my own process of inner growth and healing and learning on my side. And I created the men's passage, which there's three primary pillars that I feel like are the education that we didn't get as men for the most part. And the first one is literally how to turn our dimmer switch on, how to run more aliveness, how to get more in our bodies, how to be, filled with energy and prana and life force in a way that we can handle some of the stresses in our lives, some of the challenges, and we don't just shut down or get overwhelmed with anger or frustration or fear. That happens because a lot of us men, we get short-circuited quite quick. If we don't have the capacity to run more energy through our body, we will shut down, pull away, disconnect, avoid, or become volcanic, which means like angry, reactive. And there's a lot of permission for both of those in our world. And so that first pillar of literally just turning ourselves more fully on with all kinds of breath work, embodied practices, qigong things, ways of staying at home in our body systems. And that one leads to our ability to do the second pillar, which is shadow work, where we keep repeating the same complaints, relational challenges, breakdowns in our work, frustrations around how we can make money, same self-sabotage mechanisms that like we're repeating. And some of those are, we watched our parents repeat, our fathers, and on and on. And we have to have enough energy and online in us to comfortably or confidently face some of the things we keep doing. And a lot of us men, when we start hitting the same walls or same challenges, we tend to blame ourselves, or we tend to shut down, or we tend to blame the situation or the other. And it's learning how to face this in a whole new way and get proactive with doing our shadow work. And then that leads to the third one, which is relational skills. Being able to have the ability to communicate what we really want in the moment, or where we're getting stuck, or where we're getting blocked, or even how to relate with my own self or my own younger inner boy who still is terrified of being hit by a father figure, or being knocked down again by bullies at school, and there's some healing to do inside of ourselves to relate with ourselves from a place of holistic acceptance and love and care, and then being able to do that with whoever's in our lives, whether that's our wife, our children, our ancestors, our relatives, the plants in front of us. I believe we can come online with a much more expanded relational capacity. And so I have those as three primary pillars, but then they're broken into, modules of ways that we can apply this to our lives and practice and cultivate things week by week or even day by day. So literally we're upgrading our operating system. And along with all that work, we're in a community of men where we're getting real with each other. We're getting raw and vulnerable. We're expressing some of the edges we're facing in our lives, and we're supporting each other. We're really hearing one another, and we're looking for the things that connect us. Unfortunately, most of us men, we still do what religion does a lot. We look for the differences and distinctions that divide us instead of the resonance that aligns us or unifies us. And so as a collective of men, we're learning to lead with connection rather than isolation or separation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's so important. And and in this course, you have the different modules, and you offer it online, right? So people from all over the world can
Yeah, we
join.
do it online, and I've had men from all over the world, from Puerto Rico to Taipei to Spain. However, the time zone is most optimum for those who are in North America, or South America, or Australia and things like that. Although we've had men stay up later to be able to participate because it is live and connected. And then I do a fair amount of retreats through the year with men in person because, there's things we can't do when we're online fully that we can when we're on a retreat and men are encircled together and we have our hands on each other, which right now most of us are pretty hungry for, to be able to have connection and be close with people. And so I feel like both are equally valuable of having, a consistent program where we're working together over a period of time and applying things. And there's things that we can do over 2 to 3 months that we can't do in a weekend. But then there's things in a weekend when we're all circling up and we're being wild animals running through the forest and getting in touch with our deeper primal energy that we can't necessarily do as much on the course. And so I value both equally, but the course is great because, we give each man practices to explore, to apply in their relationship, in their life. And then we come back and share what we've noticed and what we've learned from that. And it's been really fruitful. This is the 5th time that I'm doing the men's passage, and every time it gets a little bit better. And then I have 14 men mentoring with me for a year who show up to support, who reach out to the men involved in the program too. So there's a really nice sense of the men feeling held through this journey.
Yeah. And do you have any, who would you think would need this training? Of course, everyone needs it, but who is especially, do you think, needing this right now? I think many of us are longing for connection, but maybe you have, what would you say is a great, how do you say it? Just what type of people are you inviting in?
Yeah, we do keep it somewhat tight because it's only 25 men. I don't like it to be a huge number, so there's enough place for every man to connect in. And the men that I find that we're aiming towards in magnetizing or drawing them in are the men who already have an inclination to do men's work or have been attracted to connecting with men and feel a longing to have more healthy relationships with men. Many of the men who've done this work have been like, I have a good job and I do the work I'm doing and I have men I'm around, but very few of those men really connect with me or are really available for connection. And I believe a lot of the men who are drawn to this work already have some draw to be leaders, draw to contribute to their community or to their life, and they want to have a place to learn more skills to serve or to show up that way. Or the other levels, men who feel like they're stuck in their heads and they can't break the cycle of depression or substance use, like smoking pot every day because they just feel like they don't have what they need to do what they're doing, or they're checking out with alcohol. And there's quite a few men who've had some huge breakthroughs just by being able to look at some of the grip of their vices and have a supportive container to realize they're not alone in doing that. And then to have consistent tools that really help them to do something else to break the lock of a habit or a way that we check out rather than check in. And so, there isn't a specific man. It's that there's a collective of unique men. And I think the diversity of men from different places in their lives and different challenges coming together and getting real with where we're at and having a sincere willingness to want to grow, to want to learn, to want to evolve, to want to shake off some of the grip of what we've inherited from our ancestors, the challenges they're facing. And we need more energy, more support. We need brotherhood to break that. Those are the kind of men that we're really drawing in, because then the circle of us getting together becomes a really hot fire for us to grow rapidly together. That's the ultimate intention, and to lead the growth through connection and support rather than just challenge and accountability. That's a lot of the old model of men's work has a bit of a military edge to it, where it's like, what's blocking you? Why don't you step up? Why don't you get powerful, man? Like, step in more. And I'm not against that. However, I like to start with feeling really seen and accepted and welcome wherever you are and whatever you're facing. And then to invite men to really have a space where you're not going to be judged. We're going to really invite you in. And then from being seen and welcome and invited, there becomes a really powerful place for the men to make deeper choices, to really make more powerful commitments to live who we really want to be here in life, in self, in relationship with other. And I feel like that recipe has been a really unique one for our men's work that we're doing.
That's so amazing. And I really resonate with that, because I'm thinking about when we do our work, we're not teaching that women should just get in touch with their like feminine, passive, like yin energy. I study acupuncture now, so that's why I'm referring to that a lot. But but at the same time, in when we work in sister circles or we work with the divine feminine, we work with all aspects of the feminine. So it's not just the soft and or the emotional side. We also work with the yang, like Kali, Durga, like the strong side. So when you said that, it's so important to bring that up, that why does the men trainings and courses always have to be yang? Why can it also be the yin aspect? Because in Chinese medicine, we also talk about like balance and health and homeostasis comes when there's a balance, an equal balance of the two energies. So it's so important, the work that you're doing, that to give permission and to support each other in that, to discover these different sides. And it's really hard because women have been conditioned to not take space and take their their space and hold this strong space. And men have been taught that, but it's a very extroverted energy and it doesn't work for everyone. So it's really important to find that within. I think many people push themselves to be in a certain way. how they're expected to be, and also based on gender. And we're moving away from that. We need to stop having that separation. And I mean, the divine feminine and masculine is within everyone. So we're not like categorizing people either. It's just like whatever you resonate with. But yeah, it's really, really important. And then when you are doing that healing work, it will also balance out everything else. Because I think also when we're doing like brothers are meeting and men are meeting to heal, it also heals the collective. So this work is so important. And I think it's really interesting because you also have a very long history and background in Qigong. And how do you use that in this work?
Yeah, great share. Thank you for that. And I'm with you in the sense that we're looking for this balance of the divine masculine feminine being in all of us, right? And that's one of the things I love about Qigong is it's this simultaneous, there's this need to be so soft and relaxed in every muscle and joint of the body. And at the same time, plugged into that infinite source of life force, chi and energy. And the goal is this sense of like becoming really powerfully connected, enlivened, responsive, the whole body being limber and flexible and powerful. And that all comes from how deep the capacity is to relax and drop in deeper and truly like let go and commune with the energies of life. And that's one of the things that really has blessed me, because I had all these learning disabilities. When I started to do Qigong at the age of 18, like all of a sudden, it's like my brain started coming online in a different way than it was ever able to do in school. And I went through all these layers of like burning through, like I used to stand still for an hour a day, pretty often, almost every day, most days. And through that process, within 15 minutes, I'd start feeling all this pain in my body and waves of emotion and heat and energy that my body was literally just all this basically undigested emotional energy that I wasn't able to handle as a kid, or that maybe was even my parents' emotional energy that I absorbed, started to burn through me. So what that brings down to men and women's work is that, there is a need for the fierce, powerful, protective masculine that can go out and hunt and kill and protect and all that. But it's in some ways in our world currently right now, it's almost overdeveloped, that need to be that way, or to be like an incredible, powerful, fierce sports warrior. And I'm such a fan of that. But to get there, we've also got to be like our nervous system that can drop into a deeper state of parasympathetic, where there's this deep letting go, like right after a powerful workout or an orgasm. Our whole being hopefully drops into this deep, subtle, pleasurable, I would call it feminine energy of basking in the nectar of sweetness, or the celebration of the hunt being finished, and our being able to rejoice around the fire and be in joy and love and celebration. So I like to think of that polarity existing all the time. Is in through my life, am I able to drop into my deepest calm, where I can treasure the fresh air, and at the same time be able to switch all the way over and go surf. For me, I like to go surfing. So go surfing powerful waves where it's life or death, where I'm out there in very heavy, serious conditions at times, not always that serious, but where I've got to have all my senses on and my wild hunter active in the waves to make sure that I'm playing the game and able to take care of myself and take the risks I'm taking. I think all of us should have that balance of the full spectrum, whether we're a man or a woman.
Yeah. And when it comes to, because you have also a long background in the relationship work, how has that evolved for you in your life?
Yeah, hugely. Thank you. When my first intimate relationships, let's just say 18, 19 to 25 or so, I was actually a little polarized as a man, more into kind of like the feminine, which I really thought in some ways was actually my little boy was still looking for mom to heal. And so I would attract really wonderful women into my life. But then at a certain level, I wasn't accessing more of my, primal, powerful masculine. And then when a partner would be disapproving of me or frustrated with me because I wanted to go surf instead of hang out with them or something of that nature, I would notice that I didn't know how to deal with my anger, and so I would shut down. So one of my greatest evolutions in relationship is to have my anger be something that can arise, but it doesn't turn into aggression towards me, towards my beloved or my partner, but that it can be an energy that's on tap, and that my anger can also even turn into more of a primal sexual energy or more of a powerful availability of deep presence. And the other place in my relationship that skills have evolved is that I've learned to be able to drop my defenses and really provide a space for my partner or my woman to go through the full spectrum of anything that she's feeling or facing, and not take it personally and not need to defend anything, but really trust her process and mine, and to meet her with that. And to know when to be more supportive and to know when to provide more space. And that's been huge. I've gone through so many layers of healing, opening, learning, and expanding my capacity just to be with big energy, big emotionality, and not add story to it. Not have my mind try to figure out why this is happening, where it came from, what I did wrong, what she's doing wrong, what's going on, and really, literally just meet what's going on and keep going. What do I want now? And how can I support? And how can I show up here? And I could spend probably hours talking about all the different layers inside of myself where there's been these growth opportunities that early on I probably avoided. And now I've learned to stay in the fire with a little bit more, so that there's literally a bigger relational field between Achintya and I to welcome whatever's coming up and to trust each other through the process.
And you guys work together with a program for couples, which you have also online, Empowered Loving Couples Course. Maybe you can talk about that as well.
I wrote a book called Empowered Loving, and it came from my own healing process, and then the relational work that I was getting more and more excited about, because I mentored with Gay and Katie Hendricks, who are really well-known authors and teachers all around the world. And I spent 3 years mentoring with them and going to all of their trainings and in some ways, watching what they did, but absorbing it and returning it, and then eventually leading their work in my own way, and then with other teachers and mentors. And that was so life-changing for me that I started to want to create, like, what would be a course that would teach some of the most pivotal experiences relationally that we can apply. And so I created the course, and then I was doing it the first few times I did it on my own. And then I had couples, why don't you bring in your wife for this? I'm like, your course, why don't I? And then I brought Achintya in, and we both kind of recreated the course together. And she has enriched it so much with her brilliance and all of the things that she's learned in herself as a woman. And what's been beautiful is that it's created a new dimension for me to do that work and to co-create it with her. And it's been such a beautiful journey of us offering that. And now we're going to actually pre-record it too, so that we can give it to more people as more of a smaller chunking segment of practices. But it's based on, like, starting with, like, what are foundations for healthy relationships? And that's having very conscious commitments. And a lot of us don't realize how much we have unconscious commitments that we've learned from society, from our early upbringing, from religion, and from our parents, that even with our best intentions are still kind of how we're operating relationally. And until we make our commitments more conscious, and the conscious commitments more powerful than the unconscious commitments, we will keep repeating subtle things relationally that will not work for us. And I see this again and again with couples, is that we've got to get more powerfully committed and more clear about what we're moving towards, what we're creating together, what our agreements are. And so we start with the foundation of that, and then we teach all these skills to listen deeper, to build bridges from our gut, from our heart and from our mind, because most often relationally, it's very easy to live head to head, like mind to mind, understanding to understanding, or sexuality to sexuality. And sometimes we're underdeveloped in more of the full spectrum of relating. And I believe that healthy relationships have like 5 or 6 deep bridges from, you could say, from our chakra system, but from our heart. And I'm able to listen and feel and know my partner so deeply from my heart and from my gut, and not just my understanding in the mind. And what I really have seen over the years is that many of us have read all the best books in the world. We've got a lot of mental understanding and even brilliance. And there's a gap between what we understand and what we truly know and are able to embody through experience. And that's the gap I'm doing my best, or we're doing our best to close, whether it's the men's work or the couples work, is being able to have simple tools that we can apply that get us out of our heads and into a deeper wisdom that we share in the relational field between the two of us, that allows a whole new frontier of possibility in relationship that's more fulfilling, more supportive, and even more passionate and enlivening.
That's so beautiful. And what do you think is, because this, it really goes hand in hand, like the work that you're doing individually and then together. What do you think is the biggest challenge to merge together from two to one? Like what, because you worked with it so long, so maybe you have seen like
There's
patterns.
a few. One of the biggest challenges is that when we start to hit our tender buttons where we've got a growth edge inside of us, the biggest challenge that most couples don't realize they're still doing is that they're blaming the other for their own reactivity. And as evolved as many of us are, it's very sneaky and subtle to have this thing of like, if you just wouldn't do that anymore, everything would be good between us. And as soon as I hear something, I realize, like, oh, you've got something inside of you that you're not quite taking full ownership for how you're co-creating this particular, let's just say, frustration in the relationship or challenge. And when we're able to take deeper ownership that, like, I've got some things in the way for me that I may not even be aware of. I've got some shadows in me I may not even know. And they're going to for sure show up. The deeper that my love goes, or the deeper our love goes, the more it brings up anything in the way of love. Anything in the way of our capacity to love. Because most of us don't realize that we've got what Gay Kendricks, one of my primary mentors, says is we have got this upper limits problem. And that's that most of us don't have a huge amount of experience of sustaining love, open-heartedness, deep passion, profound connection. We've got actually an internal limiter that we can only experience so much that before we unconsciously have something that sabotages it. It's like sexuality and fire and deep intimacy can be so profound, and then all of a sudden we have a fight right afterwards over who didn't put the milk away, or like small things. And it's like those are upper limits problems. They're actually where, as humanity, we're facing this in so many ways. On it, we have it microly and we have it macroly going on. Is that we can only handle so much deep love, acceptance, profound pleasure and aliveness before some mechanism inside of us tends to stop that process or interrupt it. And so if we go to the deep depths of profound relationship, it's that we've got to keep raising that bar together of how good can I stand it? How deep can I open to you? How fully can I experience the blessings of our love and this connection, and having my heart all the way open and moving through me? And can I stay in it? And then can I integrate it and allow myself to savor how good that was, and not have a crash or not have something block the flow of it? Does that make sense? Do you know that experience for yourself?
Yeah, it's really true, because it's really something that turns up in the relationship, that it can be so deep and profound and all this, and then small things. It's like so important in a relationship to see how we're always like mirroring each other. And also I think why like relationships fail, or we don't need to call it fail, because each person is our teacher. So sometimes we have a friendship or relationship that lasts 2 days or 2 years or 20 years, and it's meant to be during that time. But I think it's when you are in a relationship, you are constantly being mirrored. So it can be very comfortable to be on your own, actually. I can relate to that, how when I started my spiritual practice, I really had my routines, and I was living alone. I just loved doing all of this, and I was very focused, and that's a good thing. But it's when I met my husband, then I started seeing really things that I hadn't seen in myself. And the deepest healing has been in this relationship, because there's so much that has come up that it's childhood things. It's so much, and because you can't hide it away. It's like someone opens up something within you. So I think that's the higher purpose. Like, we're here to also teach each other, and it has everything beautiful has also two sides. It's like birth, we're birthing life. It's amazing, and but with that comes the pain and going deep within. So it's a transformational thing. And I'm really interested on your take on this, because this is something that comes up a lot, like if we look at spiritual like the spiritual community, and but talking about soulmates and twin flames. I don't know if you have any
Yeah,
insights
beautifully
of
said what
this.
you shared, and I what first came as I was listening to you is, we relationship is the greatest gift. Whatever relationship it is, like you said, one day or a few hours, a chance meeting with someone, but we discover who we are in relation to everyone else, and the more we utilize that, even if that's a bird that we're meditating with, there's something to learn in that process of that exchange, or even with animals we have, and so that was just coming to me it's so beautiful when we welcome all of the gifts that relationship has to show us about our own selves and what's possible together. And around the twin flames and soulmates, I fully believe and think it's amazing, that we have, and I don't have a particular theory of exactly how it works, but I do know that there's certain people that we magnetize into our life, that we resonate with, that have the in some ways you could call it the divine blueprint, that to help us both grow and evolve and deeply open to love, but also to surface up some of our deeper growth and healing, to turn up the volume of that in some ways, to catalyze our growth edges, because we can only do so much on our own, and it's through that relationship of others, or even with God for that matter, that catalyzes a deeper potential in our beings. And one thing I really believe in relation to soulmates or twin flames is that I think we magnetize and attract people on two levels. And the first level is all of that beautiful resonance, sexual attraction. I love being around you, feels good to be with you. I resonate with all things you're saying. And then we have what I call the shadow attraction, which is that the underdeveloped places in us, or our wounding, or basically our growth potential, where that's like the deeper place that comes up. And the relationship always begins with what we call the resonant attraction. And as the relationship matures and responsibilities increase, or we grow closer together, usually it brings up what I call the shadow piece, where this person perfectly touches or activates our growth edge, or a deep place where we have some healing that maybe never happened with our mother or father, or where we still have a deep-seated belief that we're not good enough or not lovable or things like that. And that's the work that I really encourage couples to hunt and look for relationally. Is like, we know there's so much good sexual energy and all that, but when things start to fade and there's less fire, less magnetism, I go, okay, let's go hunting. Let's go looking for where's the shadow polarity I have with you? Where's the deeper piece that I've attracted you in so that I could grow and learn and evolve and become more of who I truly am.
Yeah, so true. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, really interesting. I think your work is amazing and really needed. And maybe you can share the dates of the courses and how they can find it. And I will also link to them
Thank
in
you.
the show notes.
I actually have the Men's Passage course starting on April 30th, so pretty soon from now, a little over a week. And so that one's starting, and that one goes from April 30th till well into June. And then the next Empowered Loving, we don't have a date for it. We're working on planning that, but I'm guessing that we're going to bring it out this summer and have it going on. Achintya and I need to work on filming it and sharing it that way. On my website or either one of our newsletters, whether that's Achintya's or mine, that's a great way to connect with us and stay on the pulse of what we're offering as far as retreats. And we're both intending to spend more time in Europe too.
Yeah.
We had a beautiful walkabout. Yes, I would
great.
love to come to Sweden. That would be wonderful. We had our honeymoon and we traveled for 5 months through Europe and then down into northern and southern Africa, which was just profoundly amazing. And I have a lot of clients throughout Europe and Belgium and France and Spain. And so there is an intention for us to come do some work there. And so if anyone who's listening is in Europe, it's on the intention and plan list as soon as we get through this whole wild adventure we're all on together. But you can simply go to my website, which is shemsheartwell.com, and that would lead to anything we're up to. The other thing is we bought this beautiful retreat center on Maui, this very special land that we call the Starlight Sanctuary, and we're going to be leading and offering a lot here: men's work, couples work, women's work, and we have these amazing high-end honeymoon cottages that we've begun to rent and bring people in to do deep work with us, or even to simply come for a sacred retreat. And we're up at 3,000 feet in this very special climate in Maui, which is our favorite. So we also want to put that out there. That's on our websites too, the Starlight Sanctuary, which is really a sacred, special place that we're going to be inviting more people to visit us again as things come, as the tide changes again and we get back to hopefully living a relatively new evolution of how we're doing life together on the planet, right? Yeah.
Yes, and the retreat center looks like heaven, so I want to come when everything has calmed down. And it's beautiful, everything that you're offering and the work you're doing together. So I'm so grateful that you could be here today and to share your work and passion. And do you have anything
I appreciate
else you want to share?
and your work, and thank you for having me, and thank you to anyone here who's listening. Thanks for taking the time to get to know me this way and connect with both of us this way, and really appreciate all you're bringing and the light you're radiating out into the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I'm so grateful that you have taken the time to be here. And I truly appreciate feedback, reviews, ratings on iTunes. It really helps me to connect back to you and hearing your energy, your voice. And also, if you do leave a rating or a review or share the podcast on Facebook or Instagram, I always do a free oracle card reading as a thank you. It means a lot to be able to share my podcast to more people. And thank you so much for your time, your energy, your presence. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose and exhale.